How's it going, everybody? I was actually looking into this a little bit, trying to figure out how I could actually get this going correctly. Two people have actually asked me how to do something like this. So we're going to have an interactable object right here, and I'm going to go ahead and attach a red color to it so you can easily distinguish the two apart. The one we're going to be interacting with is going to be right here, so that one will get a yellow. The ground is just going to look like this. Very simple, very basic. The first thing we want to do is we actually want to make this a trigger. If it's going to be some kind of weird object, whether it's a garbage can or whatever, you want to make sure your trigger volume is just slightly larger than the object itself with the mesh collider. For this one right here, we're going to actually create another component. We're going to say box collider, and the size we're just going to set to 1.01. And maybe a 1. Yeah, okay, so 1.1, 1.1. There we go. You can do the same thing with this one. Make sure that this is set as a trigger, and you'd have your mesh collider right here, your box collider, sphere collider, whatever kind of collision you have. Just make sure that your trigger collider is slightly larger. This one, we don't really need too much on it, so that should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and type in rigid body, and I'm going to keep these values the exact same. The next thing we need to do is we're actually going to create a script. I've actually created two scripts. So the debug script would be something that you're trying to access. So every time we get that to hit the object, it's going to check the number, and we want to say increase the number by 1, and it's going to do a door check. This can do whatever you need it to do. But basically, if the number is less than or equal to 3, number is 2 or lower, which it won't do anything. It won't open the door. It won't let you go past go. It won't give you $200. But if it is 3 or above, then it's going to say, number is 3 or greater, and this will allow a door to open, or it'll allow a chest to open, or something like that. Allow you to do what you need to do as the player or game designer, whatever you're trying to accomplish. I don't know. So we have this cute dest. So basically, I was trying to type in cube and accidentally typed in cute, so we're going to keep it as cute. So we're going to make a public variable, and this is going to be a game object, and we're going to say, you know what, I'm just going to continue calling it cute, why not? And so what we're going to do is we're going to check for a trigger. So we're going to say on trigger enter, and we're going to say if other dot game object dot dot tag equals cute. Then is what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's see, we want to destroy that game object, but before we do that, we actually need to instantiate that game object, and the game object we're instantiating is cute. And we're going to instantiate at transform.position at quaternion.identity. Wrong button. So the next thing we're going to do is say destroy, and we are destroying the other. Okay, there we go. We're also going to want to check to see if it's the object that will give us like the trigger plus, or if there's no trigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to say public bool, and we're going to say trigger plus. And right here we're going to say if trigger plus, or actually if it's not trigger plus. So all it's going to do is it's just going to destroy the game object, and it's going to give us another one to try again. But if it is trigger plus, then we're going to say this exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I actually want to call this debug script in case we get it right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a serialized field. And I'm going to say debug script. I'm just going to call this DS. Because I'm calling a debug script, I actually need to go ahead and create a start method group. I'm going to say ds equals ds dot get component, and the component type we are getting is debug script. There we go. And so here's what's going on. I'm going to pull this script and put it in this field. The reason why I'm saying serialized field instead of public field, because this will be accessed by the script itself. It's a little more optimized and overall a little bit better where it's not being called publicly. Right here, so the variable we're assigning to debug script is just called ds. So we're saying ds equals ds, and we're getting a component of it, and the component we are getting is called debug script. So that's why it's important to have this line. So right here we're going to say ds.checkNum. And the reason why I'm saying checkNum, because right here is where our checkNum is. So it will actually check this, it'll increase the number by 1, and then it'll do a door check. From here, once it does a door check, it'll see what the number currently is. Is it 2 or lower, or is it 3 and greater? I'm actually going to go ahead and save this scene. Come on. You can do it. I'm going to save it in here. Full sail tut. There we go. And so for trigger plus, we have this, and then we need the ground. And so for the ground is what I'm going to do is I actually need to bring in Qt Destroy. And let me go ahead and create another box collider for the ground, and I'm going to edit the collider range. And so if it lands anywhere on this side, it's going to destroy it. And if it lands out of bounds, it will destroy it. So this should be good. And that's floating up above, so if it hits up here, then it'll be fine. So now we have the interactable. We actually need to make this a prefab. And I'm going to get rid of it off of here. So we have trigger plus, and we have... no, we don't want no trigger. I was actually going to make no trigger the one with this, but you know what? It's whatever. So for this, I actually need to find my prefab, which is interactable, and this is going to be called the kit. And then last thing we need to do is no trigger will actually hold my debug script. And so I'm going to click on both of these, and I'm going to put this here. And so finally the trigger plus is the only one that will be set as active. So from there I'm going to go ahead and save it. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my interactable up here. And I'm going to test it out real quick. So essentially I should just be able to grab this handle right here and drop it on here. So if I do this, nothing happens. That is probably because I forgot something. I know exactly what I forgot. My bad, y'all. So I'm going to click on this, open prefab. I need to change this tag to cute. Save. Let me go in here real quick. I'm going to come in here. So yeah, I do have the spelt same. The way you have this spelt has to be spelt the exact same here. If it's not, this will not work. Because this is part of a class project, I'd highly recommend putting your initials in front of it, just like I've done. This way, you don't have to worry about anything conflicting with other students' work whenever you all get together to compile a level together. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and drop this back on here. Let me go ahead and hit play, and we'll test this out. Okay, so you're probably wondering what just happened there. Basically, I just put Unity in a loop. So the reason why this happened, because a trigger area entered inside of this object. So that's something I should have actually seen. I just didn't. And now y'all get to see my desktop background, which is, maybe not. Okay. So I'm going to load, no. I'm going to load this back up. And since we had that issue, is what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove that script from the ground. I'm actually just going to put it inside that empty game object. So this way we don't run into that issue again. That's actually something I should have seen coming like 10 miles away. But everyone makes mistakes. Prime example. So we'll just wait for this to load. Until then, that was quick. So I'm going to go back into that scene. and we are going to finish it up. Dark save. Okie dokie. So, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this component, and I'm going to remove this component, and I'm going to click on No Trigger. That has my debug script, and it will also hold my destroy script, but it won't have that attached to it. So I'm going to move my interactable up here, and this will have the... No, it needs to be itself, because that's what my debug script is attached to. And this one needs to be set as trigger, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that real quick. I'm going to click on this, make sure that's set to kilt, and it is. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to hit save. So now, if we hit play, we shouldn't get what we got last time. There we go. So I'm going to drop this here. Okay, so what's going on is it's creating it where it collides at. So in order to change that, what we need to do is we actually need to create an empty game object to prevent that. So I'm actually going to close out Unity again, because this is just an endless loop. It's just ridiculous. And I'm actually going to click back on here. And this is actually a pretty simple fix. It's really not that bad. I've seen a lot worse. Although I don't think it's destroying them. Oh. There we go. So the purpose of this is it's pulling the collider of the trigger, and it's calling it other. The collider name itself is called other. And so it's saying if that other game object, whatever it might be tagged with in this case, is called cute, then it's going to destroy it. Whereas before I was just destroying the collision on it, but it was constantly creating them. So that's why it was happening like that. That my bad, y'all. So now if I've done this right, it should only... One, it should only do... trying to think how to explain this. It should only destroy one of them, and shouldn't keep popping them up like that. But there was something else I was wanting to do as well, and I can't think... Oh, that's right. So we're going to say for the trigger plus, we're actually going to create empty. I'm going to move this right here. So this is where these objects will pop in at. And from there is what I'm going to do is I'm going to say trigger plus. I'm actually going to... Let me see. I'm actually going to... I'm going to remove both of these components. Oh, no, wait. I don't want to do that. Wait, yes, I do. So I'm going to remove... Do I want to do that? I'm trying to think how I really want to do this. Because I think that's what I want to do is I actually want to make that a child of that. So... Oops, that's not what I want to make it. I'm looking for my game object. Here we go. So I'm actually going to make the trigger plus a child of the game object. No, I'm not. So my game object's over here, and I'm actually going to say cute destroy, and I'm actually going to copy component, add component, box collider, paste component values, and all I'm going to do is move it along the Z right here, right about there. I'm going to increase the size like so, and this will be... No, I don't want that one. I actually want... Okay, let's see. I want this one down here, and DS, which was debug script. I'm trying to remember where I had that. I'm pretty sure it was on the ground. It was not on the ground, so maybe it's no trigger. It was no trigger. Okay, awesome. And this one will be trigger plus. I'm actually going to save that. And so now, with any luck, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, make sure everything's reset back to 0. I'm going to save it, and we're going to try this. So now it should instantiate them over here. Let me remove these real quick. because I don't want it on the trigger plus, I just want it on the empty game object. The trigger plus will more or less be where we're going to be throwing it at. Okay, there we go. So now I should be able to click on my interactable and drop it here. Okay. Drop that here. So, last thing we need to do is no trigger. And the reason why this is not working, because we need a box collider on this as well. So I'm just going to click on this guy right here. I'm going to move this back. And lastly, I'm just going to make it super wide. There we go. So I'm going to hit play real quick, and hopefully this will work. It should work. Tire Jimmy, yay. Well, it destroyed it. Didn't quite do what we wanted to do, though. So, let me click on the... No, it's not. It's the no trigger. Ah, that's why. We actually need to move it up some. Right about there. And for this, we're actually going to... We're actually going to do the same thing we did over here originally. I think that'd be the easiest thing to do. So let's go ahead and click on our game object. And we're actually going to copy component. We're going to click on no trigger. We're going to hit paste component values. Then we're going to edit the collider one more time. We're just going to move it back to about here. Move it forward just a little bit. And the last thing I want to do is just move it back down. So I'm going to move this down to 0. Move this down there. Move this up. Okay, yeah, that should be fine. Just a -3. Alright, so now this should pop into place. Let's find out if it does. And there we go. If we drop it here, number is 2 or lower, so this is working, and number is 3 or greater. So why is it popping up with extra ones there, whereas right here, it just comes up with 1? So to look into that, let's go ahead and click on this. No, we want the... We have interactable and no trigger, and then we're going to click on trigger plus. No, it's not trigger plus. What is that one? Game object, that's what it is. Okay, so this is the last part of the script that we need to look at. It is instantiating, but what I'm going to actually say, instead of making this an else statement, I'm going to say if... Wait. There we go. So now we're saying if it is trigger plus, then this is going to happen, but if it's not, then this is going to happen. And so, in theory, this should do it. In theory. So if I move this here, there's 1. Nope, still does it every now and then. This is something you might want to ask your professor, because honestly, I have never had this happen before. Then again, I've never set up an instantiate script like this either. That is really weird. I think is what's going on is it might be, I almost want to say it's hitting it twice, but I don't know why that would be. So one thing we can do is, let me go ahead and click on the interactive. I'm going to turn off the trigger area. I don't know if that's the issue or not, but it might be. So let's go ahead and test this out real quick and see if that's the issue. Nope, that is not the issue, so I have no idea there, fellas. y'all might actually be witnessing something I have no knowledge on. Because my original theory... Oh, wait a minute. Actually, that might be the issue. So, you might actually have to come in here and just keep a regular box collider on it. That's really interesting. Yay, I learned something new. And 20 minutes into the video. So now if this collides with this, collides with this, collides with this. So yeah, as what was going on is it's actually hitting two different colliders. But now we're only getting one. So yeah, I guess you just need a regular mesh collider on it. That's actually kind of funny. So the reason why that's happening, because it has a collider on it, but it doesn't have the trigger. So basically is what was going on is this no trigger should have been set as a trigger, and then that would cause it to fall through and destroy itself. But that's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions, if you need me to make a more refined video, I can. But until then, I will see y'all later, and sorry about how long this one took. I'm extremely exhausted. Until next time, folks. See y'all later.